everyone. අද මේ වීඩියෝ එකෙන් මම කතා කරන්න යන්නේ web component development 1 කියන සබ්ජෙක්ට් එක යටතේ අපිට තියලා තියෙන වීඩියෝ සීරීස් එකේ දෙවෙනි වීඩියෝ එක. මේකදී අපිට දීලා තියෙන ටොපික් එක තමයි how to use JSP and Servlet with web.xml. ඒකෙදී අපිට කියලා තියෙන්නේ web.xml කියන ෆයිල් එකත් එක්ක කොහොමද JSP සහ Servlet කියන ඒවා පාවිච්චි කරන්න කියන එක තමයි සාකච්ඡා කරන්න තියෙන්නේ මේ ටොපික් එක යටතේ. අපි පළවෙනියට බලමු configuring the web.xml deployment descriptor. Java web applications use a deployment descriptor file to determine how URLs map to servlets, which URLs require authentication and other information. This file is named web.xml and resides in the apps under the web.inf directory. Web.xml is part of the Servlet standard for web applications. ඊළඟට අපි බලමු deployment descriptor කියන්නේ මොකක්ද කියලා. A web applications deployment descriptor describes the classes, resources and configuration of the application and how the web server uses them to serve web requests. When the web server receives a request for the application, it uses the deployment descriptor to map the URL of the request to the code that ought to handle the request. The deployment descriptor is a file named web.xml. It resides in the apps under the web.inf directory. The file is an XML file whose root element is web app. මේ තියෙන්නේ deployment descriptor එකට දීලා තියෙන පොඩි example එකක්. ඊළඟට අපි බලමු servlet සහ URL paths ගැන. Web.xml defines mapping between URL paths and the servlets that handle requests with those paths. The web server uses this configuration to identify the servlet to handle a given request and call the class method that corresponds to the request method. Example, the doGet method for HTTP GET requests. To map a URL to servlet, you declare the servlet with the servlet element. Then define a mapping from a URL path to a servlet declaration with the servlet mapping element. The servlet element declares the servlet, including a name used to refer to a servlet by other elements in the file, the class to use for the servlet, and installation parameters. You can declare multiple servlets using the same class with different installations parameters. The name for each servlet must be unique across the deployment descriptor. මේ තියෙන්නේ තවත් example එක servlet සහ URL paths වලට අදාළව. ඊළඟට අපි බලමු මොකද්ද මේ JSP කියන්නේ කියලා. An app can use Java server pages to implement web pages. JSPs are servlets defined using static content such as HTML mixed with Java code. App Engine supports automatic compilation and URL mapping for JSPs. A JSP file in the applications outside of web.inf whose file name ends in .jsp is compiled into a servlet class automatically and mapped to the URL path equivalent to the path to the JSP file from the war root. For example, if an app has a JSP file named start.jsp in a subdirectory named register in its war, App Engine compiles it and maps it to a URL path /register/start.jsp. If you want more control over how the JSP is mapped to the URL, you can specify the mapping explicitly by declaring it with a servlet element in the deployment descriptor. Instead of a servlet class element, you specify a JSP file element with a path to the JSP file from the war root. The servlet element for the JSP can contain installation parameters. මේ තියෙන JSP වලට මම දීලා තියෙන පොඩි example code එකක් ඊළඟට thank you